The world is a single, continuous canopy. Light falls in shifting emerald columns through a ceiling of leaves 100 meters thick, dappling the forest floor in a perpetual twilight most living things will never touch. High above, where the great crowns of the trees breach the clouds, is a city woven from life itself. Walkways of braided liana, taut as steel cables, connect vast communal nests hollowed from the trunks of living giants. The air hums not with machines, but with a chorus of 1 million coordinated calls, whistles, and clicks that carry for kilometers, mapping the social and emotional geography of the city. Movement here is a constant, dizzying dance of momentum and gravity. A long-limbed figure, for a mosaic of lichen green and bark brown, launches into space. Its arms, impossibly long and wiry, are not arms as we know them, but pendulums of flesh and bone. One hand, with fingers like bent hooks, catches a branch with casual precision. For a half-second, the body is a plummeting weight. Then the immense power of the shoulder and back muscles transforms that fall into a forward arc. It soars, a silent, graceful projectile over a chasm that would mean certain death for any creature of the ground. Its feet, a second pair of hands with a fully opposable toe, are tucked tightly against its body, ready to grip, stabilize, or manipulate. There is no fear of heights here, only a profound instinctual understanding of the physics of falling. This is their world, a three-dimensional web of opportunity and danger. They are the masters of this vertical empire, the inheritors of an earth where the primates never left the trees. They are a ghost of what we once were, and a testament to a world that could have been. Our story, the story of humanity, is one of descent. It began roughly 7 million years ago, not with a sudden leap, but with a slow, hesitant wobble. In the dense tropical rainforests that blanketed much of Africa during the late Miocene, our earliest ancestors were consummate climbers. Creatures like Sahelanthropus chadensis lived a life much like modern chimpanzees, a life defined by the branch and the vine. Yet fossil evidence of their foramen magnum, the opening at the base of the skull where the spinal cord exits, is positioned further forward than in other apes. This subtle anatomical shift suggests a more upright posture, the first whisper of bipedalism. These were not ground dwellers, but they were already pre-adapted for a world beyond the trees. The catalyst for our great exodus from the canopy was not a choice, but a geological inevitability. The titanic forces of plate tectonics were tearing the continent apart, creating the Great Rift Valley. As the land to the east of the valley rose, it created a massive rain shadow. The climate began to change dramatically. The once unbroken rainforests of East Africa started to wither, fragmenting into isolated pockets of woodland separated by a new alien environment, the savanna. For arboreal primates, this was an apocalypse. Their leafy highways dissolved, replaced by a sea of grass filled with unfamiliar predators and new challenges. To move between food sources, they had to brave the terrifying openness of the ground. This environmental pressure cooker acted as evolution's most brutal filter. It favored individuals who could move more efficiently across these open spaces. Fossils like Ardi and Ardipithecus ramidus from 4.4 million years ago show a fascinating mosaic of features: long, curved fingers and an opposable big toe for climbing, but a pelvis and leg structure already rebuilt for walking upright. She was a creature of two worlds, a living bridge between the trees and the ground. This transition was the defining gamble of our lineage. We traded the security of the forest for the opportunities of the savanna. We sacrificed climbing prowess for endurance running. We freed our hands from locomotion, allowing them to specialize in tool use. This single momentous decision, forced upon us by a changing world, laid the foundation for everything that followed: fire, language, agriculture, civilization. But our entire exploration begins by erasing that catalyst. In our alternate timeline, the geological and climatic shifts that created the savanna never occur, or at least not on the same scale. The vast, contiguous supercanopy of the Miocene persists, a stable, unbroken ecosystem stretching for millions of square kilometers. For the primates living within it, there is no evolutionary pressure to descend. There is no reward for bipedalism, no sea of grass to cross. Instead, the pressure is to become even better at life in the trees. The challenge isn't how to survive on the ground, it's how to dominate the canopy. Our speculative lineage, these creatures we can call the arboreals, took the other path. Theirs is not a story of descent, but of a relentless 7 million-year-long ascent. In a world defined entirely by the architecture of trees, the body becomes a finely tuned instrument for navigating a three-dimensional space. The human form, a compromise between climbing ancestry and terrestrial persistence, would be hopelessly inadequate here. For the arboreals, specialization would be absolute. The skeleton would be a masterpiece of lightweight strength and extreme flexibility. Their arms, the primary engines of locomotion, would be significantly longer relative to their torsos, perhaps with an arm span to height ratio exceeding 1.5 to 1, dwarfing even that of a gibbon. The shoulder joint, the glenoid fossa, would be shallow and wide, permitting a full 360-degree range of motion, allowing them to swing and change direction with astonishing fluidity. The entire upper body musculature, from the latissimus dorsi to the pectorals and deltoids, would be dense and powerful, capable of generating explosive force for long-distance brachiation. Their hands would have evolved into specialized grappling hooks. The fingers would be long, permanently curved, and the palm shortened. The powerful flexor tendons would allow for an effortless grip, enabling them to hang by one arm for extended periods without fatigue, much like an orangutan. While this makes them exceptional climbers, it would come at the cost of fine motor manipulation. The human hand's genius lies in its dual capabilities: the power grip for holding a hammer and the precision grip for threading a needle. The arboreal hand would be overwhelmingly optimized for power, meaning intricate tool-making with the fingertips would be more challenging. However, their feet would compensate. Freed from the burden of supporting body weight on flat ground, the arboreal foot would have reverted to its ancestral state as a second pair of hands. A long, fully opposable hallux, or big toe, would act like a thumb, providing a powerful pincer grip on branches of varying diameters. Their legs would be shorter and more flexible, designed for climbing and gripping rather than efficient walking. The concept of a stable, arched foot for absorbing shock during running would be anatomically nonsensical. Their feet would be supple, hand-like appendages of immense utility. Perhaps the most significant physical divergence would be the reemergence of a prehensile tail. While the ape lineage, our lineage, lost its tail around 25 million years ago, a powerful muscular fifth limb would provide an overwhelming selective advantage for a large-bodied primate in a complex arboreal environment. It would serve as a dynamic stabilizer during leaps, a counterbalance during complex maneuvers, and a secure anchor freeing up all four hands for foraging or tool use. The immense energy and nutrient cost of maintaining such an appendage would be justified by the unparalleled safety and efficiency it provides. Their silhouette would be alien, a creature with four hands and a serpentine tail, a being built not for walking the earth but for mastering the high frontier. Intelligence in this timeline would follow a different trajectory. The prevailing theory for the expansion of the human brain, the social brain hypothesis, suggests our intelligence co-evolved with the demands of managing complex social groups. While this would still be a factor for the arboreals, the primary cognitive driver would be navigational and spatial. Life in the canopy is an exercise in complex, multi-layered problem-solving. It requires a mental map of not just a 2D area, but a 3D aerial volume of immense complexity. They would need to remember the exact location of thousands of individual trees, the seasonal fruiting schedules of hundreds of plant species, and the safest, most energy-efficient routes between them. This form of network mapping would require a hippocampus and parietal cortex of incredible size and sophistication. Their intelligence would manifest as an intuitive, almost sublime understanding of physics, geometry, and ecology. They wouldn't solve for x in an equation. They would live the equation of the perfect parabolic leap from one branch to the next. This cognitive toolkit would shape their technology. A fundamental schism in technological development arises from one simple, intractable problem: fire. For ground-dwelling humans, the mastery of fire was the single greatest technological leap in our history. It provided warmth, protection from predators, the ability to cook food, unlocking more calories and fueling brain growth, and ultimately, the forge for metallurgy. For the arboreals, a sustained, controllable fire is an impossibility. A stray spark could incinerate their homes, their food sources, their entire world. The very concept would be one of apocalyptic destruction. Without fire and metal, their technology would be forced down a completely different path, one of sophisticated organic engineering. This biotechnical revolution would be based on manipulating and cultivating living things. Their tools would be crafted from bone, chert if they could find it, and above all, wood. But they wouldn't just carve dead wood, they would manipulate living wood. Through techniques like pleaching and grafting, they would literally grow their architecture, weaving the branches of trees into load-bearing structures, living bridges and fortified communal dwellings. They would cultivate specific fungi for their adhesive or waterproof properties, using mycelial networks as a form of natural cement. Their containers would be hollowed gourds, their ropes and nets woven from meticulously selected plant fibers. They might even engage in a form of primitive pharmacology, using plant-based alkaloids and toxins to stun prey caught in canopy traps or dropped from above, a silent, effective form of hunting that requires deep botanical knowledge. Their mastery would be of life, not of inanimate matter. They wouldn't smelt iron ore, they would cultivate a tree species with iron-hard wood, or selectively breed insects to produce silk of incredible tensile strength. Their progress wouldn't be measured in the hardness of their alloys, but in the resilience and utility of their living creations. The persistence of this global canopy and its masters would have profound consequences for the rest of the planet. On the forest floor, a dark, humid world ruled by decomposition and shadow, life would be radically different. The megafauna that humans hunted to extinction in our timeline might thrive. The deep forest would be the domain of enormous, shade-loving browsers and their formidable predators. The open savannas that supported vast herds of grazers in our world would remain marginal, transitional zones. Without the influence of human-set fires used to clear land, the balance between forest and grassland would be decided purely by rainfall and soil composition. The planet's atmosphere would likely have a higher oxygen concentration and lower carbon dioxide, a direct result of this vast, undisturbed arboreal biomass acting as a planetary lung. The civilization of the arboreals would be utterly alien to human sensibilities. Their societies would likely be organized vertically. The highest levels of the canopy, the sun-drenched emergent layer, would be the most desirable real estate, offering the best food, the greatest visibility, and the most safety from the few predators capable of ascending that high. This high ground could form the basis of their social hierarchy. Power structures would not be based on the ownership of land, a meaningless concept, but perhaps on control over specific groves, ancient trees, or critical transit pathways woven through the canopy. War, as we know it, might not exist. Sieges and open field battles are artifacts of a two-dimensional world. Conflict would be more akin to guerrilla warfare in 3 dimensions, skirmishes along aerial borders, raids on fruit caches, and the destruction of vital liana bridges. Their nations would not be bordered patches on a map, but voluminous overlapping territories defined by scent markings and vocal broadcasts. Their psychology and philosophy would be shaped by their environment. The primary existential axis of their world is not forward and back, but up and down. Up would be associated with light, safety, abundance, and community. Down would be the source of fear and myth, the underworld of the forest floor, a place of darkness, strange beasts, and decay. Their entire cosmology would be built around the world tree, not as a metaphor, but as a literal reality. Their gods would be spirits of the wind, the sun, and the great ancient trees that form the pillars of their world. Their understanding of time itself might differ. Instead of a linear, progressive timeline spurred by technological revolutions, their perception might be cyclical, tied to the predictable recurring rhythms of the forest, the flowering of one species, the fruiting of another, the coming of the monsoons. This might lead to a profoundly conservative, stable culture, one that has achieved a near-perfect equilibrium with its environment. This isn't stagnation, but a form of societal and ecological mastery so complete that radical change becomes unnecessary. Progress is measured not in disruption, but in endurance. Imagine humanity, having evolved elsewhere in the galaxy, making first contact. Our probes descend through the atmosphere and see a planet entirely green with no signs of cities, roads, or agriculture. We might dismiss it as a primitive, uninhabited world. But as we get closer, we would see the impossible, structures grown from living wood, a civilization perfectly camouflaged within the ecosystem that sustains it. We would encounter a sapient species that has never forged a metal tool, never built a fire, and never felt solid ground beneath their feet. How would we communicate with beings whose entire conceptual framework is built around a vertical axis? How do you explain a pyramid to a creature that only understands webs and spheres? They would view our metal ships with bewilderment, not as marvels of engineering, but as dead, sterile objects. We would see them as primitives trapped in a green Eden. They would see us as ghosts from a dead underworld, wielding the sterile, destructive power of fire and stone, utterly disconnected from the living world. The gulf in understanding would be absolute. It is easy to romanticize this alternate world. The arboreals live in a perpetual green paradise, a civilization in perfect harmony with nature, free from the ecological destruction that has scarred our own planet. They are the ultimate expression of biological adaptation, a testament to the power of life to create complexity and intelligence within a stable system. They have achieved a form of utopia, a world without war over territory, without the pollution of industry, without the existential dread of a changing climate. Their history is not a series of bloody conquests and technological upheavals, but a long, quiet story of deepening symbiosis with the forest that is their cradle and their cosmos. They have mastered their world so completely that they have become a part of it, indistinguishable from the great green engine of life that supports them. But here lies the profound and perhaps tragic revelation. Their strength is born of stability. Their perfection is a function of an unchanging world. And in that perfection lies their ultimate fatal vulnerability. Our lineage, the lineage of Homo sapiens, is a product of chaos. We were forged in the crucible of a shattering climate, forced out of our ancestral home into a world of lethal new pressures. This catastrophic instability was not a curse. It was the ultimate gift. It forced us to become adaptable above all else. When we couldn't outrun predators, we made spears. When we were cold, we harnessed fire. When the savannas dried up, we followed the herds. When the Ice Age came, we made clothes from their hides and lived in caves. Our intelligence is not the gentle, contemplative intelligence of ecological balance. It is the frantic, desperate, problem-solving intelligence of a species perpetually on the brink. Our technology, born of fire and stone, is a testament to our refusal to accept the limits of our biology. The arboreals never faced such a crisis. Their 7 million-year Eden is also a 7 million-year evolutionary trap. They have become so hyper-specialized for a single, unchanging environment that they have lost the crucial plasticity that defines our own history. Should their climate finally shift? Should a new virulent disease sweep through the canopy? Should a supervolcano or an asteroid impact blot out the sun and wither their forest world? They would have no recourse. They cannot migrate across open plains. They cannot dig for roots if the fruits fail. They cannot build fires for warmth. Their living architecture would rot. Their entire civilization, a wonder of biological engineering, is as fragile as the leaves on the trees. We descended from the canopy and eventually looked up at the stars. The arboreals ascended to the top of the canopy and looked down, perfecting their world until they could imagine no other. The great irony is that the catastrophe that evicted us from paradise was the very event that ultimately gave us the keys to the universe. Our ancestors, standing on the dusty plains of Africa, blinking in the harsh sun, were taking the first terrifying step on a journey that the masters of the canopy, in all their graceful perfection, could never begin.